Welcome to another episode of Success Blueprint. I'm your host, Scott Hansen, and as always, we get the opportunity on the show, Success Blueprint, to interview, speak to, and really peek behind the curtain of some of the most successful business owners, entrepreneurs, business execs, politicians, sports athletes, and everybody really in between. And today is absolutely no different. I'm excited to be here today with Mr. David Ritter. David is the CEO of Networked Chicago, and I'll have him explain a little bit more about that. But what makes it so special is we're going to have a tip or a success networking tip for you. So if you're a business owner, you're someone that owns your own business, that is an entrepreneur, someone that's really looking to take their game to the next level, and you really want to learn more about how to network more efficiently, David is your guy. So welcome to the program, David.
Thank you, Scott, for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I know we've talked about this outside of being on the show, but you really have a really unique story. You went from really being in the IT world and being a leader in the IT world and corporate management in that space, and then you made the leap from corporate over to becoming an entrepreneur, which I can relate to because that's what I did. So I would love for you to share your story with the audience and how you went from being in the corporate IT world, where it's probably very analytical or very technical, over to the networking space.
Sure. Well, to begin with, actually, it isn't as different as you might think.
Okay.
First of all, leading IT in a corporate environment is really all about finding the technology that you need to leverage to help a business deliver value to its customer base. And Network Chicago is basically the same thing. I mean, it's a combination of people, process, and technology. As far as making the leap to something more entrepreneurial, I mean, I've always had that itch from early on. Although I spent most of my career in the corporate world, I kind of was able to scratch that itch a bit by being part of the launch of some new business lines within the overall corporate structure.
Okay.
Now the difference is I own it.
Right.
So, and I love that.
It's fun to be an owner.
It is. Well, there are a lot of headaches, but it is also fun.
Right, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Networked Chicago, it's very interesting. I find that this networking, I'll call it a networking events company, although I know it's not really positioned that way, but it's different than a lot of other networking groups, albeit chambers or meetup.coms or any other networking organizations. How is Networked Chicago positioned differently than maybe some of these other networking groups?
Well, the biggest difference is that most of the networking sites that you would go on to find a calendar of events, those sites typically only list the events that are hosted by that group that is posting the site. Right. By contrast, Network Chicago connects our members to all of the networking organizations and the events that they are hosting. For example, I mean, right now we have over 200 different groups represented on our site that host events, and at any given point, we have 150 plus mix and mingle kinds of events, educational kinds of events, plus another couple hundred referral networking events. So there's a lot of content on there, a lot more than you'd find on most sites. As far as Meetup, you mentioned Meetup. They are a great site, actually, but the difference is that they are, while very broad, and I'll describe that in a second, they're also very shallow in functionality. They're broad in that they try and do everything from art to zoology, which includes some business networking events, but they're shallow in terms of the functionality. And we, by contrast, are narrowly focused, laser focused on business networking events, the related seminars, workshops, expos. And we're very deep in terms of functionality. So you have actually a couple different levels of membership that you can have, but you get all the way to warm introductions, which you can't get with a meeting.
So what I really enjoy about the Networked Chicago business model is that it's literally a one-stop shop for all business networking. So if I'm someone that, I know that networking is important, I know it takes time away from my business day or time away from my family, so I want to be very efficient. So rather than going to all these different sites and checking out the different chamber sites or the meetup sites or the social sites, I can literally come on one umbrella, one location, one URL, and click on all these different types of networking events and pick and choose right there versus going to all these different sites.
Yeah, the other thing, like you said that well, but the other thing that people find is that they sift through their emails, and that's a very inefficient process, right? In addition to going to maybe a dozen other websites.
Sure.
So like you said, we're trying to consolidate and bring all of that information into one place, make it one-stop shop. In addition, you have depth that you can drill down and find out more about the venue and about the host, the organizer of that event, and the group itself, and you have background information on all of that. And then if you upgrade your service to a premium membership, then we do these warm introductions. We'll hook you up with a networking buddy. You get free access to some of the events that you would ordinarily have had to pay for. So it really is a much richer experience. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Shifting gears for a second, I want to give a strategy or a tip to anybody that's viewing this show, because again, as someone that does coach people, business owners, on how to be more efficient with their networking, as I mentioned earlier, I think that a lot of people realize they have to be part of a networking event, or they have to go to networking events because networking events normally equals potential clients. If you could give one strategy for someone out there who's watching this to say, how do you be more efficient in your networking, what's one tip or one strategy you can give? Well, strategy is the key word. I mean, I try to get people to think in terms of being purposeful, being intentional about their networking rather than wandering through the process. So key to that is starting by understanding your purpose, really clearly defining why you're out there networking in the first place. And from that, lay out very specific objectives and write them down, and be specific about what the time frame and what you're trying to accomplish. And then define the characteristics of the kinds of folks that you're looking to connect with. Once you've got that kind of information, literally write it down on paper. Once you've got that captured, then you can effectively evaluate the groups and the events against that criteria and see where is it most productive to spend my time. So taking off of that answer, and a part B to the question would be, so once they find out they're clear on what they want, they have an intention, they have a purpose, but now they really want to find out that they go to the networking event, it suits their purpose, and they're very clear on what type of person they want to meet. Now they meet that person. It's kind of like the old dating question, which is, how many days should I wait to call that person? Or in this case, should I email that individual? What's your suggestion in terms of, once I got the card, how quickly do I follow up? I love the analogy, first of all. It is a little like dating, and like dating, you don't call everyone that you might have had a first date with, right? Or that you got introduced to. So when you identify those that where it makes most sense, and there's really a synergy, and there's mutual interest and potential to help one another. For those, I say follow up within 24 to 48 hours. Do not let it languish. First of all, you want to be memorable for that person. The sooner you get back to them, the more memorable you will be, and vice versa. You'll remember more about them, about the people that you met, about their interests, their needs, etc. One of the things that I also teach my clients is follow-up is key. Being intentional is very key. But I think in addition to all those things is, once you're in the meeting, once you're at the coffee meeting, to have a plan. Like you said, to have a plan of, how can I help you, rather than always pitching your service or your business to them. I think that a lot of people, maybe they look at it like the other person's a dollar sign, rather than how can I serve and how can I add value to that person? Who can I connect that person with, rather than I have to hurry up and get a sale, or can they be my client right away? Would you agree? I do agree, and there's a key distinction. Networking is a very different exercise from selling. They are related, or they can be very related, but when you're networking is about meeting people and building relationships. Selling is something that potentially, if it fits into the mix for this particular contact, then it comes later. It's after you've built the relationship. Then, assuming that there is interest in, a need for, and there's a pain point that you can solve, then absolutely. But you've probably heard the adage that people love to buy, but they hate to be sold.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
don't go after it. Don't go after a sale. Go after building a relationship, and then if there's a good synergy, it'll come.
That's great. One of the things that we always talk about on Success Blueprint is success stories. You've shared some success stories on how you made the leap from corporate America to becoming a successful entrepreneur. I know that this business model originally started in Phoenix, and the second city to be rolled out is Chicago.
Right.
I know that Phoenix is close to 40,000 members. I know that you guys are close here in Chicago to almost 4,000 in almost a year's time frame, not quite a year, about 9-10 months. What do you attribute your rapid success to?
Well, just a quick correction first. Phoenix is approaching 30,000 members.
30,000, okay.
But still, I mean,
still a lot.
That's maybe half the size of the Chicago market, and and we've launched just in March of last year in Chicago. Okay. So it is a very short period of time that we've already grown to approaching 4,000 members here. I expect that in the long run that Chicago's number of members will actually be larger than the Phoenix market.
Wow.
But to answer your question, to begin with, I think it starts by having brought a solid and proven business model and platform to Chicago. So it was already proven in the Phoenix market. And second, it's all about, as it is with any business, the value that you're bringing to your members or your customers.
Right.
And if that weren't there, we wouldn't be growing.
Great. I want to learn more about your failure. You know, we always talk about your successes and your attributes and some of your wins and accolades and all those things, which are very important. But as an entrepreneur, I always tell people you have to learn to fail. You have to embrace failure, because failure is just simply part of the equation for success. So I know you have a lot of success wins. Share with our audience maybe one loss or one failure that you learned from that you were able to take and then continue and apply.
You know, I mentioned earlier that any business has to rely on a combination of people, process, and technology. And people is right at it's the beginning, because if you don't have the right people, the process and the technology really aren't going to deliver a whole lot of value, right? I had a couple of times that I've made bad hiring decisions. And that can be so detrimental. It can have such an impact on a business, especially on a small business, because the smaller the business, the larger the component or the percentage of your team is represented by that one bad decision.
Right.
So my learning is, quite frankly, I mean, first of all, it's an inherently imperfect process. You can hire for skills. What's much more difficult is to hire for attitude, aptitude, motivation, cultural fit overall, and those are so incredibly important, especially in a small business.
Right.
But when you make a mistake, my learning is that you have to, first of all, admit it to yourself and then address it, and don't let a lot of time lapse. That means being very honest with the individual involved about what the issues are, giving them an opportunity to get it corrected, and help them, if possible, doing that. But if it's not going to work, it's not, and cut the string and make the decision. The other piece of it is, frankly, I've kind of grown to the notion that of trying before buying. In other words, contract relationship to start sort of the dating process in an employment sense, and make sure it's a good fit for everybody involved. Now, that won't work for all positions, but where it can, I think it's a good approach. Yeah.
Did you call it the try and buy?
Yeah, I did.
Try and buy.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. So, well, this has been a pleasure. I know we can go on for hours and hours and hours, but it's amazing what you've been able to do with Networked Chicago in a very relatively short amount of time frame. This is the man that you should be listening to when it comes to networking, when it comes to, being around people that are playing at high levels. He can teach you how to network. He obviously has a huge platform and an amazing company that's doing nothing but growing in a fast and rapid way. Where can people get a hold of you and or check out your website?
Well, the website is networkedchicago.com, and that's networked with an ED, chicago.com. And you can reach me at david@networkedchicago.com.
There you go. And I know we're going to continue to see some amazing things from not only David, but also Networked Chicago. So if you also want to be a show guest on my show, or if you know someone that's also doing some great things in their business or in the community, make sure to email me at scott@scotthproductions.com. And as always, go out and make it a great day because you absolutely deserve it. Take care.